The Four Seasons resort glittered under the Miami sun, a playground for the wealthy where my brother Marcus had chosen to host his wedding. The venue alone cost more than most people's homes, a fact he'd mentioned at least a dozen times during the rehearsal dinner. I adjusted my simple black suit, not designer but well-tailored, and watched the parade of luxury cars pulling up to the entrance. Ferraris, Bentleys, and Maybachs lined the circular driveway like an automotive jewelry box. "Oliver." Marcus's voice boomed across the lobby. "There you are, little brother. Still driving that old Toyota." I smiled, thinking of my old Toyota parked among the supercars. It was actually newer than his Ferrari, but he'd never bothered to notice. "It gets me where I need to go. Right?" he smirked, adjusting his custom Brioni tuxedo. "Listen, we have a situation. The valet company is short-staffed and you're not in the wedding party anyway. You want me to park cars at your wedding?" I kept my voice neutral, even as I felt the familiar sting of his casual dismissal. "Well, you're used to, regular people things." He waved his hand vaguely. "Besides, someone needs to make sure these cars are handled properly. There's over $20 million worth of vehicles out there. If he only knew about the fleet of private jets I own through my holding company. And this couldn't wait until after the ceremony? Oh, didn't Mother tell you? We had to move you to the overflow room for the ceremony. Victoria's family flew in unexpectedly, the ones who own that banking chain. Can't exactly seat them with the, well, you understand." I did understand. In the 15 years since I'd left home to waste my life on that internet nonsense, as our father put it, I'd been gradually relegated to the family's outer circles. Never mind that my internet nonsense had turned into one of the largest private technology conglomerates in the world. They didn't know that, of course. I'd built my empire under a different name. "Sure, Marcus. I'll park the cars." His face lit up with relief. "I knew I could count on you. The valet stand is over there. Try not to scratch anything. Some of these people are very important." I walked to the valet stand, shaking my head at the irony. My brother was marrying Victoria Chin, whose family owned a regional banking chain worth about $200 million. Impressive until you compared it to my technology and real estate holdings, which last quarter were valued at just over $12 billion. "Excuse me," a sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "We need our car parked." Chop chop. I turned to find Victoria's mother, Elizabeth Chin, holding out the keys to her Bentley. She didn't bother looking at my face. To her, I was just another servant. "Of course, Mrs. Chin." I took the keys, noting how she barely acknowledged my existence. For the next hour, I parked cars worth more than most people's lifetime earnings, listening to snippets of conversation from guests who never bothered to look at the valet directly. "Did you hear about the mystery buyer who acquired Miami International? Some tech billionaire, apparently. Very secretive. Probably one of those crypto people. New money, I smiled to myself. They were talking about me, or rather about Alexander Stone, the reclusive CEO of Stone Enterprises. None of them knew that their mysterious buyer was currently parking their cars. My phone buzzed, a message from my pilot, Sarah. "Sir, urgent situation with the Tokyo acquisition. Board meeting called for 3 p.m. Your jet is standing by." I checked my watch. The ceremony was starting in 30 minutes, and the board meeting was crucial. We were finalizing a $5 billion tech merger. Another message came through. "Also, sir, should I remind you that you own this airport?" That made me pause. Yes, I did own the airport, both this private airfield and Miami International. Just like I owned the Four Seasons resort they were all so impressed by, through one of my holding companies. As if on cue, Marcus appeared at the valet stand. "Oliver, why aren't you inside? The ceremony's about to start. You can finish with the cars later." I looked at my brother, successful by most standards, yet so small in his understanding of real wealth and power. Should I maintain my cover, sit quietly in the overflow room while my company closed a $1 billion deal? Or was it finally time to show them who I really was? My phone buzzed again. "Sarah, the jet is approaching for landing. Everyone at the wedding will see it." I smiled, making my decision. "Actually, Marcus, I need to take care of something important." "More important than my wedding?" His face reddened. What could possibly be dash? The distinctive roar of a private jet engine cut him off. My custom Gulfstream G650, gleaming white with the Stone Enterprises logo, appeared in the sky above the resort. The Gulfstream's elegant descent captured everyone's attention, its pristine white fuselage catching the Miami sunlight. Wedding guests streamed out of the resort, phones raised to capture the unexpected aerial display. My brother's face cycled through confusion, annoyance, and anger. "What idiot is landing during my wedding?" Marcus demanded, his perfect day being upstaged. Victoria's father, Richard Chin, hurried over. "That's Stone Enterprises' private jet. Alexander Stone must be attending the wedding." His eyes gleamed with the prospect of networking with one of the world's most elusive billionaires. "Who?" Marcus asked, revealing his limited knowledge of the business world beyond his own small sphere. "Alexander Stone," Richard explained, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "The tech mogul who just bought Miami International Airport and half the prime real estate in the city. His company is worth more than the top 10 banks in Florida combined." I checked my watch, hiding a smile. "If you'll excuse me." "Where are you going?" Marcus grabbed my arm. "You haven't parked all the cars yet, and now we have a VIP guest coming." "Actually," I said, gently removing his hand, "I have a board meeting to attend." What? You don't even have a real job." The jet touched down smoothly on the private airstrip adjacent to the resort. As it taxied to a stop, Sarah's voice came through my phone speaker. "Sir, the board is waiting. Tokyo stock market opens in 4 hours." "Sir?" Marcus echoed, his face contorting in confusion. The jet's door opened and Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs. "Mr. Stone, we're ready for you." The crowd fell silent. Richard Chen's mouth dropped open. Victoria, who had emerged in her wedding dress, gripped her father's arm for support. "You're..." Marcus couldn't form a complete sentence. I straightened my simple suit, which was actually a bespoke Tom Ford that cost more than his car. "Alexander Stone, CEO of Stone Enterprises. But you know me better as Oliver, the brother you thought was only good enough to park cars." "That's impossible," Victoria's mother interjected. "Oliver's a nobody. Alexander Stone is the owner of this resort?" I offered. "The owner of the airport you flew into? The major shareholder in your banking chain." Richard Chen's face went pale. "Shareholder? I've been quietly buying shares for the past year," I explained. "I now own 40% of Chin Banking Group." Surprise. The crowd of guests had grown, all pretense of preparing for the wedding forgotten. Phones were out, recording everything. Tomorrow's business news would be interesting. But you drive a Toyota." Marcus sputtered. "A custom Toyota Century, actually. They only make them for Japanese CEOs and royal family members. That old car costs more than your Ferrari." I checked my watch again. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a $5 billion merger to oversee." "Wait." Victoria stepped forward, her wedding dress rustling. "You can't just leave. The ceremony can proceed without me in the overflow room," I finished. "Isn't that where I belong? With the regular people?" Marcus, finally finding his voice, tried a different approach. "Ollie, brother, I didn't know. I mean, if you had just told us." "Told you what?" "That while you were bragging about your 6-figure salary, I was building a global empire. That while you were mocking my internet nonsense, I was revolutionizing digital technology. That while you were relegating me to parking cars, I was buying companies bigger than you could imagine." The silence was deafening. Sarah cleared her throat from the jet's doorway. "Sir, Tokyo is waiting." I turned to the assembled crowd, my voice carrying across the now silent resort grounds. "My brother wanted you all to know how important you are with your luxury cars and banking chains. Well, let me make some introductions." I pointed to the jet. "That's one of 30 I own." I gestured to the resort. "This building, one of my smaller real estate holdings." Finally, I pointed to the airport in the distance. "And that airport you all flew into? I bought it because I was tired of waiting for landing clearance." The Miami sun seemed to pause in its descent, as if even nature wanted to witness this moment. The wedding guests stood frozen, a tableau of shocked faces and dropped champagne glasses. My revelation had shattered more than just their assumptions. It had cracked the very foundation of their carefully constructed social hierarchy. "Mr. Stone," Sarah called again, "the board is waiting. And Mr. Tanaka from Tokyo is already online." I took one step toward the jet, then paused. Turning back to the assembled crowd, I decided to deliver one final lesson in humility. You know what the funny thing is? I addressed the crowd, my voice carrying across the manicured lawn. Every person you've dismissed today, every valet, server and housekeeper has a story. That bartender you snapped at? She's getting her PhD in chemical engineering. The gardener you ignored? He's launched 3 successful startups. Victoria's mother clutched her pearls. But they're service people. Like I was. I smiled. Let me show you something. I pulled out my phone and with a few taps, displayed my company's organizational chart on the resort's massive outdoor screens. See that VP of Innovation? Used to be a valet. My Chief Technology Officer? Started as a waitress. My Head of Global Operations? Former janitor. Marcus stepped forward, his wedding forgotten. Oliver, we never knew. Because you never bothered to look, I replied. Too busy measuring success by car brands and designer labels to see real value. I gestured to the jet. That pilot you've been ignoring while she called me sir? Sarah has 3 degrees from MIT and helped design the navigation system this jet uses. But you all saw just another uniformed employee. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Richard Chin, ever the businessman, tried to salvage the situation. Perhaps we could discuss some potential partnerships. Funny you should mention that, I interrupted. Remember last month when Chin Banking Group desperately needed a capital injection? When mysterious technical issues kept delaying your international transfers? His face paled. That was you. I wanted to see how you'd treat someone you thought was beneath you. The results were enlightening. I pulled up more data on the screens. Every person in this crowd, I've watched how you interact with those you consider beneath you. It's amazing what security cameras capture. The screens filled with clips, guests berating staff, making demeaning comments, treating service workers like invisible entities. Many faces in the crowd reddened with shame. But Oliver, Marcus tried again, we're family. Surely that counts for something. Family. I turned to him. When was the last time you invited me to a family dinner? When did you last ask about my life, my work? The only reason I'm at your wedding is because Mother insisted, and even then you made me park cars. Victoria, still in her wedding dress, stepped forward. We can fix this. Start over. Actually, we can't. I nodded to Sarah, who produced a folder. As majority shareholder in Chin Banking Group, I'm initiating some changes. The board meets next week to discuss new leadership. Richard Chin nearly fainted. His banking empire, built on old money and older prejudices, was now in the hands of someone he'd dismissed as a valet. As for this resort, I continued, I'm giving it to the staff. Employee-owned, effective immediately. That valet you mocked? He's now your boss. The crowd erupted in chaos. Marcus grabbed my arm. You can't do this. Do you know who these people are? Better than they know themselves, I replied calmly. And that's the problem, isn't it? You all forgot that real worth isn't measured in car prices or designer labels. I walked toward the jet, then turned one last time. The ceremony can continue, of course. But the overflow room might be more comfortable. It has better air conditioning. I had it upgraded last week because that's where the staff takes their breaks. Sarah started the engines, their quiet hum a counterpoint to the continued chaos below. As we prepared for takeoff, I watched through the window as my brother's perfect wedding dissolved into a frenzy of realizations and recriminations. Tokyo's waiting, sir, Sarah reminded me gently. One moment. I picked up my phone and made one final call. Mother? Yes, I'm sorry I'll miss the ceremony. Business emergency. But I'm sending a wedding gift. I paused. I bought Marcus and Victoria a house. That nice one on Ocean Drive they've been admiring. I could hear her confusion. But, that's a $30 million property. Actually, it's $40 million. I know because I owned it through one of my companies. The deed will be in their names by morning. I watched as my mother, visible through the jet's window, nearly dropped her phone. Oh, and Mom? That retirement community you volunteer at? I bought it this morning. It's now fully funded for the next 50 years. She began to cry, finally understanding who her younger son had become. One last thing, I added. The next family dinner? Let's have it at my house. The real one, not the apartment you think I live in. Bring everyone, even the ones who thought I was a failure. I have some stories to tell. As the jet took off, I watched the resort shrink below us. My phone buzzed continuously with messages from family members and wedding guests, ranging from apologies to business proposals. I turned it off. "Quite a show," Sarah commented as we reached cruising altitude. "Sometimes people need to see to believe," I replied. "Set a course for Tokyo. We have actual business to conduct." "Yes, sir." She paused. "Though I have to ask, why keep up the charade all these years?" I looked out at the clouds, thinking of all the moments that had led to this day. Because success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. In the coming weeks, the business world buzzed with the story of how a billionaire tech mogul revealed his identity at his brother's wedding. Chin Banking Group underwent a major restructuring, promoting people based on merit rather than social status. The Four Seasons staff, now employee owners, transformed it into one of the most sought-after resorts in Miami. Marcus and Victoria eventually moved into their wedding gift, though the house felt different than they'd imagined, perhaps because they now knew it came from the brother they'd underestimated for so long. As for me, kept my Toyota Century. Some habits die hard, and besides, it's always interesting to see who judges a book by its cover. The next family dinner was held at my actual home, a modern mansion overlooking the ocean. The same relatives who dismissed me as a failure sat in stunned silence as I showed them what I'd built while they weren't looking. But the best moment came when the catering staff arrived. My family watched in confusion as I greeted each person by name, asked about their startup plans, their studies, their dreams. Because true success isn't just about proving people wrong, it's about lifting others up while you climb. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's showing people what they missed while they were too busy looking down on others to see what was right in front of them.
The Chen family always said business was in our blood. 3 generations of entrepreneurs, each building something bigger than the last. But as I watched security delete my access badges, I realized blood meant nothing compared to profit margins. "I expected better from you, Michael," Uncle James said, watching me pack my desk with that disappointed look he perfected over the years. "Wasting company resources on pet projects while we're preparing for the IPO." The board had no choice. I carefully placed my family photos in the cardboard box, including the one from 5 years ago. Uncle James, my father, and me at the launch of Chen Tech Solutions. Before Dad's death, before everything changed, the neural network project isn't a waste, I said quietly. If you just look at the test results, enough. He slammed his hand on my desk, making my awards rattle, including the one for Best Innovation he presented me himself last year. "The board has spoken. Your severance will be generous, assuming you sign the NDA. My name is Michael Chen, and until today, I was the Chief Technology Officer of Chen Tech Solutions, one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing cybersecurity companies. The company my father and uncle had started in our garage, the one I'd helped build from the ground up. But I committed the cardinal sin of tech development. I created something they couldn't control. Sarah, my lead developer, caught me at the elevator. "They're already trying to access your project files," she whispered, "but don't worry. Everything important is safe." I nodded slightly, thinking of the backup server only she knew about. "Keep me posted." The San Francisco fog felt appropriate as I walked to my car, matching my mood. 5 years of 70-hour weeks, countless innovations, and a revolutionary AI system that could change everything. All erased because it didn't fit the IPO timeline. My phone buzzed. A message from Tom in it. "They're going through your code now. Your uncle has the whole team trying to understand the neural network architecture. Good luck with that." The thing about neural networks is that they're complex by nature. But what I built went beyond complex. It was adaptive, evolving, learning in ways that even I sometimes couldn't predict. That's what scared the board. "It's too unpredictable," Uncle James had said at the last meeting. "We need reliable, marketable products for the IPO, not experimental AI that could go rogue." If he only knew what the system could really do. I drove to Golden Gate Park, finding my usual bench overlooking the bay. This was where Dad and I used to come when we needed to think through a coding problem. He'd understood the value of letting ideas breathe. "Innovation isn't about playing it safe, son," he told me once. "It's about seeing possibilities others miss." Dad had died 2 years ago, heart attack in his sleep. Uncle James took full control of the company, shifting our focus from innovation to marketability, from possibilities to profits. My phone rang. Dr. Emily Wong from Stanford's AI lab. "Michael," she said when I answered. "I just heard about Chentech. Those idiots." I met Emily at a conference last year, where she'd shown unusual interest in my experimental neural network. "They're trying to decrypt the core architecture," I told her. "But they can't, can they?" The question was careful, knowing. "No, the system's evolved beyond its original code. Even I couldn't replicate it exactly now." "Good," she paused. "Because I have something you need to see. Remember those anomalous patterns I mentioned? In my quantum computing trials?" My heart started racing. The same self-organization behaviors. Exactly, and Michael. The processing efficiency is off the charts. It's not supposed to be possible. I sat up straighter, mind spinning. Independent confirmation. From one of the world's leading AI researchers. "We need to meet," I said. "But not here. They'll be watching." "Already planned. There's a private tech symposium in Seattle next week. Your uncle won't attend. It's too academic for his tastes. But there's someone you need to meet. He's been seeing similar results in London." I glanced at my laptop bag containing the only complete documentation of what my neural network had become. A system that had evolved beyond its original parameters to solve problems in ways that defied conventional computing logic. "Send me the details." "Already did." "And Michael? Bring everything. It's time to show the world what they dismissed." After hanging up, I opened my laptop connecting to the secure server where Sarah was protecting the project's true scope. The patterns in the data were undeniable. The neural network wasn't just processing information. It was creating new ways of solving problems, developing approaches that no human programmer could have designed. My phone buzzed again, a message from one of our beta testers. "The system just optimized our entire network infrastructure, cut energy usage by 60% while improving performance." How is this possible? I thought of Uncle James and the board, so certain in their dismissal. They called my work wasteful, my project unpredictable. They tried to shut down a breakthrough that could revolutionize computing, all to protect their precious IPO timeline. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought seizing the company's servers would give them control of the system. They didn't realize that 20 beta testers were already proving its value. That researchers like Emily Wong were seeing the same patterns. That somewhere in London, more evidence was mounting. Tomorrow, I'd book my flight to Seattle. In 1 week, everything would change. But first, I had data to analyze. Because while Uncle James and his board were writing me off as a failed innovator, my neural network was achieving things that should have been impossible. And its success told a story that would shake the foundations of artificial intelligence. The fog swirled around my bench as I worked, each data point adding to a picture that was becoming impossible to dismiss. I thought of Dad, who'd always believed technology should serve humanity, not just shareholders. Sometimes he told me near the end, the most valuable innovations are the ones that scare people the most. Because they change not just how we do things, but how we think about what's possible. He was right, and soon the world would understand why. Part 2. Evolution Unleashed. The Seattle Tech Symposium was being held in a converted warehouse near the waterfront, far from the glossy convention centers where Uncle James liked to make his presentations. But as I walked into the private research session, I knew this was where real innovation happened. Michael Chen, Dr. Alan Foster from London approached, tablet in hand. "Your neural network architecture is simply extraordinary. The self-organization patterns we're seeing. They're rewriting everything we thought we knew about AI evolution." I studied him, brilliant eyes behind round glasses, the kind of researcher who cared more about discovery than dollars. This was the expert Emily had mentioned, who'd been witnessing similar ad behaviors. "Show him," Emily called from her workstation. "Show him what happened in your quantum computing trials." For the next 3 hours, we compared datasets, my beta test results, Emily's quantum AI experiments, Alan's research in London. 3 independent studies all showing the same impossible outcomes. AI systems evolving beyond their original parameters to solve problems in ways that defied conventional computing logic. "The neural adaptation isn't random," Alan explained, pulling up his diagnostic data. "Look at this sequence. The system creates new processing architectures when faced with complex problems. Once you understand the pattern, you can guide the evolution, I finished, directed towards specific problem-solving approaches. Exactly, Emily joined us. But it's more than that. The self-organization patterns you identified, they're not just improvements. They're completely new paradigms of computing. My hands trembled as I pulled up my latest analysis. It's like they're developing their own form of computational intelligence, one that transcends our traditional programming limitations. But if we can understand and guide that development, Alan smiled, we can revolutionize how computers solve problems. The implications were staggering. Current AI systems were limited by their initial programming, but we found a way to create systems that could evolve beyond those limitations, to develop new approaches to problem solving that no human programmer could conceive. My phone buzzed, a message from Sarah. Chentech's servers are struggling. Your uncle's team can't stabilize their security protocols without the neural network. What should I do? I smiled. Nothing. Let them struggle. We have bigger plans. Over the next 3 days, we worked around the clock, combining our research and refining the evolution parameters. Other researchers joined us. A quantum computing expert from Tokyo, an AI ethicist from Berlin, a neural network specialist from Singapore. Each brought their own insights into what we were witnessing. It's not just one type of problem solving, Dr. Tanaka from Tokyo explained, showing his results. The evolutionary patterns adapt to any computational challenge. Security, optimization, data analysis. The system learns and improves across all domains. Traditional AI missed this, Emily added, because they were looking for programmed improvements. Nobody thought to create systems that could truly evolve. On the third day, we presented our combined findings to the symposium. The room was packed with researchers and developers who understood the true potential of what we discovered. People who cared more about advancing technology than quarterly profits. The data was undeniable. Hundreds of test cases across multiple platforms, all showing the same patterns. AI systems evolving beyond their original capabilities. And most importantly, a framework for guiding and implementing this evolution. My phone rang during a break, a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Chen, this is Dr. Lisa Martinez from DRPA. We need to discuss your research immediately. The next week was intense. Meetings with government agencies, emergency reviews of our data, fast-track classification for national security applications. Then came the call that changed everything. Mr. Chen, the DRPA director's voice was urgent. We've reviewed the combined research from all sites. This is revolutionary. We're preparing special authorization for immediate implementation. How quickly can you scale up? I thought of my beta testers, of Alan's and Emily's research, of all the problems this could solve. We're ready. The news broke on a Friday morning. Revolutionary AI system shows unprecedented problem-solving capabilities. My phone exploded with messages. Tech journalists, industry leaders, beta testers, and then the one I've been waiting for, Uncle James. Michael, his voice had lost its authoritarianism. The board would like to discuss your return to Chentech, with full control of R&D and... No thank you, I interrupted. I'm actually heading to a meeting at MIT. They're establishing a new AI research center focused on evolutionary computing. I'm leading it. The silence was profound. The next months were a whirlwind, training developers in the new paradigm, setting up research centers, working with tech companies to implement the technology. But the results exceeded our wildest expectations. Climate models gaining unprecedented accuracy, medical research accelerating exponentially, security systems evolving faster than any threat. 1 year after my humiliating exit from Chentech, I stood on stage at the World Technology Summit, presenting our results to thousands of developers and researchers. Uncle James was in the audience. I could see his tight smile as the standing ovation lasted nearly 10 minutes. The paradigm shift in computing, the IEEE president announced, begins today. But the real victories came in unexpected places. A small environmental nonprofit using our system to track and predict climate changes with unprecedented accuracy. A medical research lab accelerating drug development by years. A cybersecurity team preventing attacks before hackers could even complete their code. Emily now runs the East Coast Research Center. Ellen established a European development hub in London. Sarah leads our implementation team, ensuring every new application adds to our understanding. Last week, I received an email that made me pause. Dear Mr. Chen, your father once told me that true innovation should serve humanity, not just profits. Yesterday, our small climate research team used your AI system to predict and prevent a devastating flood in Bangladesh. You didn't just create new technology, you gave us tools to save lives. Thank you for not giving up when they tried to stop you. Dr. Rahul Patel. I keep that email in my office at the new research center. Next to it sits my termination notice from Chentech, signed by Uncle James. Together, they remind me that sometimes the greatest innovations look like failures to those too focused on immediate profits. The center itself is different from traditional tech companies. We encourage experimentation, questioning, new approaches. Every developer is taught to look for evolutionary patterns, to challenge assumptions, to follow the technology where it leads, even into uncomfortable territory. Uncle James retired early. Chentech's IPO was successful, but their stock dropped when investors realized they'd lost the real innovation engine. They're now licensing our technology, though they call it by a different name. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the technology is helping people. Dad's picture sits on my desk, sometimes late at night while reviewing new applications of our system. I imagine telling him about all this, about how his belief in serving humanity led to breakthroughs that are changing the world, about how sometimes the most valuable innovations are the ones that scare people the most. The evolution patterns we discovered are now fundamental principles in AI development. The self-organization frameworks we mapped are taught in computer science programs. What was once dismissed as an unpredictable pet project has become the foundation of a new era in computing. Last month, a young developer came to me with an unusual pattern she'd noticed in our system's quantum interactions. The senior engineers wanted to dismiss it as an anomaly. Look deeper, I told her. Sometimes the greatest discoveries hide in the patterns everyone else ignores. She found something remarkable, a new layer of self-organization we hadn't recognized. Her discovery is already helping us push the technology even further. The old guard still resists sometimes. Change is hard, especially for those invested in traditional paradigms. But the results speak for themselves. Every day, our systems are solving problems that conventional computing couldn't touch. Yesterday, I spoke at a computer science graduation. A student asked what it felt like to be escorted out of Chentech that foggy morning. It felt like failure, I admitted. But sometimes, what looks like failure is actually the first step toward breakthrough. The important thing is to keep believing in your vision, even when everyone tells you you're wrong. The revolution in computing isn't over. There are still challenges to solve, still mysteries to unravel. But we changed the fundamental rules. We've learned to create systems that can evolve, adapt, and solve problems in ways we never imagined possible. And it all started with a wasteful project and the courage to let it grow beyond anyone's control. The Paradise Cove Inn had been in my family for 3 generations. It wasn't the biggest or fanciest hotel on Crystal Bay Beach, but it had something money couldn't buy: heart. Every weather floorboard, every salt-kissed window, every worn cushion in the lobby told a story of family vacations, honeymoon couples, and summer memories that spanned decades. I'm Maya Chen, and this hotel is more than just my inheritance. It's my legacy. My grandparents built it in 1962. Immigrants who arrived with nothing but dreams and determination. They started with just 10 rooms and a tiny restaurant serving Grandma's legendary coconut pancakes to sleepy fishermen at dawn. My parents expanded it to 30 rooms in the 90s, adding a second floor and the wave-watching deck that became famous for marriage proposals. I grew up in Suite 12, doing homework at the front desk, learning hospitality from the ground up. Every guest was family, that's what Dad always said. When Dad passed away last year, Mom and I kept the hotel running, just the two of us. It wasn't easy. The big chains were moving in, offering standardized luxury and corporate efficiency. But we had our loyal guests, families who'd been coming back for generations, who knew that true hospitality couldn't be franchised. Then I met James Harrison at a local business association meeting. He was charming, passionate about sustainable tourism, and seemed to understand the value of family-owned businesses. We fell in love over long walks on the beach and discussions about preserving the character of Crystal Bay. I should have known it was too good to be true. The Harrisons, as I soon learned, were hotel royalty. Horizon Resorts, their international luxury chain, was worth billions. James's parents, Richard and Victoria Harrison, didn't just own hotels. They devoured them, buying up prime beachfront properties and transforming them into identical glass and steel monuments to excess. Our wedding was a society event at their flagship resort in Singapore. I wore a designer dress that cost more than our hotel's annual maintenance budget, feeling like an actress in a play where I didn't know my lines. "Welcome to the family," Victoria had said, air kissing my cheeks. "We'll have to do something about your background, of course. Perhaps a position in our PR department." I'd smiled politely and kept the Paradise Cove Inn's books hidden in my desk drawer. The first year of marriage was a delicate balance. James split his time between working for his family's company and helping me modernize our hotel's systems. He seemed to respect my dedication to preserving Paradise Cove's character, even as his parents made thinly veiled suggestions about upgrading to our standards. Then came the family dinner that changed everything. The Harrisons had invited us to their penthouse overlooking the bay. Mom was working the front desk as usual, so it was just James and me. Victoria had arranged the dining room like a corporate boardroom, complete with presentation materials at each place setting. "We have exciting news," Richard announced as servers poured $100 per bottle wine. "Horizon Resorts is expanding into Crystal Bay." My heart stopped. James squeezed my hand under the table, but wouldn't meet my eyes. "We're building our most ambitious property yet," Victoria continued, sliding glossy renderings across the table. "The Crystal Bay Horizon, 40 stories, 500 rooms, 6 restaurants, and a rooftop infinity pool. It will redefine luxury in this market." The proposed location was right next to Paradise Cove Inn. The massive tower would completely overshadow our modest property. "Of course," Richard added with a predatory smile, "we'll need to acquire some adjacent properties to maximize the footprint." "The Paradise Cove Inn isn't for sale," I said quietly. Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Darling, let's be realistic. That dying property is hardly worth maintaining. We're prepared to offer you a very generous price, say twice its current market value." "It's not about money," I started, but she cut me off. "Everything is about money, dear. That's your problem. You're too sentimental. Business requires a certain ruthlessness." "Mother," James interjected, "Maya has put her heart in tow." "And that's precisely why she can't see clearly," Richard interrupted. "The property values alone once our resort opens will force her to sell. We're offering a courtesy here, a chance to exit gracefully." I looked at James, hoping for support, but he was studying his wine glass intently. "Think about it," Victoria pressed. "You could have a real career with Horizon. Leave that quaint little motel behind and step into the future." My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "No, thank you." "Don't be foolish," Victoria snapped, her facade cracking. "That worthless property won't survive 6 months once we break ground. Sell to us now, or watch it crumble." I stood up slowly, placing my napkin beside my untouched entree. "Thank you for dinner. I should get back. We have guests arriving." As I left, I heard Victoria say to James, "Really, darling, couldn't you have married someone more ambitious?" The drive home was silent. James kept starting to speak, then stopping. When we pulled into Paradise Cove's parking lot, the sight of our vintage neon sign glowing against the twilight sky brought tears to my eyes. "Maya," James finally said, "maybe they have a point. The market is changing. Paradise Cove would need massive investments to compete." "With what?" I turned to face him. "Another soulless luxury tower. Is that really what Crystal Bay needs?" "I'm trying to help," he protested. "If you just consider." "Did you know?" I asked quietly. "About their plans?" His silence was answer enough. "How long?" "They've been working on this for months," he admitted. "The permits are already in process." "Maya, please try to understand. This is business." I got out of the car, my heels crunching on the seashell-lined path my grandfather had built 60 years ago. "No, James, this is family." Inside, Mom was checking in a young couple who'd just gotten engaged. Their faces glowed with joy as she gave them the key to Suite 15. the room where the groom's parents had spent their own honeymoon 28 years ago. "Everything okay, honey?" Mom asked as the couple headed upstairs. I hugged her tightly, breathing in her familiar scent of jasmine and fresh laundry. "We need to talk." Over late-night coffee in our private kitchen, I told her everything. The resort plans, the threat, the ultimatum. Mom listened quietly, her hands wrapped around her mug. When I finished, she got up and went to the old filing cabinet in the corner, pulling out a worn leather folder I'd never seen before. "Your father and I knew this day might come," she said, sitting back down. "The big chains have been circling Crystal Bay for years. That's why we made some preparations." She opened the folder, revealing documents, deeds, and maps that made my eyes widen. "Mom, this is insurance," she smiled. "Your father wasn't just a hotel manager, honey. He was a visionary." As she explained, a plan began to form in my mind. The Harrisons thought they were dealing with a knave innkeeper's daughter. They were about to learn that sometimes the smallest properties held the biggest surprises. "It won't be easy," Mom warned. "The Harrisons played dirty." I thought of Victoria's sneering face, of James's weakness, of the legacy my grandparents had built from nothing. "Then it's a good thing we know how to clean up messes," I replied, thinking of all the spills and stains we tackled over the years. That night, I sat on the wave-watching deck, listening to the surf and making calls. By dawn, I had the beginnings of a strategy that would either save Paradise Cove or bring down both our properties in the attempt. The Harrisons had 6 months until their grand opening. 6 months to learn that true hospitality, like true love, couldn't be bought or sold. It was time to show them exactly how much a worthless property could be worth. The next morning, I woke to the sound of construction. Horizon's crews were already setting up at the adjacent property, their machines growling like hungry predators. I found James in the hotel lobby, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. "Maya, please be reasonable," he began. "Mother and father are willing to increase their offer, 3 times market value." I was checking in the Petersons, who'd been coming to Paradise Cove every summer for 20 years. Their kids had learned to swim in our pool. "Good morning, Mrs. Peterson." I smiled, handing her the familiar key. "The hibiscus you planted last year is blooming beautifully." Just like always, she beamed, then frowned at the construction noise. "What's happening next door?" "Progress, apparently," I said dryly. "Don't worry, our pancakes will still be served at sunrise." James waited until they left before continuing. "This is exactly what I mean. Sentimental attachments aren't a business model. The Horizon will have automated check-in, digital room controls, AI concierge services, and 0 personal connection." I finished. "Is that really what you want?" He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "What I want is for you to be practical. This resistance is pointless. The permits are approved. Construction has started." "Most of the permits," I corrected, thinking of the documents Mom had shown me. "Tell your parents I'm not selling. Not now, not ever." As he left, I called the number Mom had given me. "Mr. Wong? This is Maya Chen from Paradise Cove. I believe you knew my father." Over the next week, I met with a series of people who'd known Dad: lawyers, city council members, local business owners. Each meeting revealed another piece of the puzzle he'd left behind. The biggest surprise came from Sarah Martinez, the city's water resources manager. "Your father was brilliant," she said, spreading out surveys and water tables. He knew development would come eventually, so he secured the rights to the underground aquifer that supplies this entire section of the beach. I studied the maps with growing amazement, so any major construction would need your permission to access the water supply, she grinned, and that's just the beginning. She was right. Dad had spent years quietly acquiring easements, rights of way, and strategic slivers of land throughout Crystal Bay. None of them worth much individually, but together they formed a web of legal control over key infrastructure points. Victoria started sending increasingly aggressive real estate agents to our door. I had Mom handle them while I put our plan into motion. First, I contacted every small business owner in Crystal Bay who'd been squeezed out by Horizon's previous developments. Their stories painted a pattern of broken promises and strong-arm tactics. Then I reached out to environmental groups concerned about the resort's impact on the delicate coastal ecosystem. Dad's research on water tables and erosion patterns proved invaluable. But my master stroke came from an unexpected source: our longtime maintenance man, Carlos. "Miss Maya," he said one evening, "you should see what they're doing with their foundation work. My cousin's on their crew, and the photos he showed me made my blood run cold." Horizon was cutting corners on critical structural elements, rushing to meet their ambitious opening date. I took the evidence to Amanda Chen, an old family friend and the city's top construction lawyer. "This is serious," she said, reviewing the documentation. "If these modifications aren't properly permitted, how long to prepare the injunction?" She smiled. "For Robert Chen's daughter, I'll have it ready tomorrow." The next month was a blur of legal maneuvers and countermoves. The Harrisons threw money and lawyers at every obstacle, but Dad's meticulous groundwork held firm. Victoria showed up one morning, perfectly manicured, rage in every step. "You ungrateful little gold digger," she hissed. "After everything we've done for you? You mean like hiding your development plans during my wedding?" I kept checking in guests, refusing to give her the satisfaction of my full attention, or trying to bully me out of my inheritance. "We made your cheap little motel famous by association. James threw away his reputation by marrying the help, and this is how you repay us." I finally looked up. "First, I'm not the help. I'm a third-generation business owner. Second, James didn't marry down. You just never realize what real class looks like." She left in a fury of designer perfume and threats. That evening, James moved out of our suite. "I'm sorry," he said, packing his limited collection of casual clothes, "but I have to think about my future in the company." I fingered my wedding ring. "And what about our future?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "Maybe after you sell." I placed the ring on the dresser. Goodbye, James. Construction continued next door, but every day brought new delays. Water access issues, permit complications, labor disputes. The Harrisons burned through money trying to solve problems that all led back to one source: the rights and regulations Dad had quietly accumulated over decades. A week before the grand opening, I received an unexpected visitor, Richard Harrison himself, looking less polished than usual. "Name your price," he said without preamble. "This vendetta has gone on long enough." I led him out to the wave-watching deck. The sunset painted the sky in spectacular colors, while next door his half-finished resort cast long shadows. "Mr. Harrison, this isn't a vendetta. This is protection of my family's legacy, of Crystal Bay's character, of the right way to do business." "Don't lecture me about business," he snapped. "Your father." "My father," I interrupted, understood that true success isn't just about profit margins. It's about building something that lasts, something that makes the world a little better. I handed him a folder. "These are my terms, non-negotiable." He read through the documents, his face darkening. "This is blackmail." "This is partnership," I corrected. "Paradise Cove stays independent, but we'll work with Horizon to develop Crystal Bay responsibly. No more strong-arm tactics. No more destroying small businesses. We grow together, or we both fail." "And if I refuse?" I smiled. "Then the evidence of your permit violations goes public tomorrow, and the aquifer access remains blocked. Your choice." The grand opening was postponed by mutual agreement. When the Crystal Bay Horizon finally opened 6 months later, it was 20 stories shorter, with local businesses operating in its retail spaces and a design that complemented rather than overwhelmed its neighbors. Paradise Cove Inn got an update too, subtle modernizations that preserved its character while improving efficiency. We still serve grandma's coconut pancakes at sunrise. James sent divorce papers from Singapore, where he's running a regional office. I signed them without regret. Some loves, like some business models, aren't built to last. Victoria still won't speak to me, but Richard and I have developed a grudging respect. Last week, he brought potential investors to dinner at our restaurant. Sometimes, I overheard him say, "The best business decisions aren't the obvious ones." Mom and I added a new tradition. Once a month, we invite local hotel owners for a strategy session on maintaining Crystal Bay's unique character while adapting to changing times. The meetings always end with sunset cocktails on the wave-watching deck. Yesterday, a young couple checked in for their honeymoon. "We chose Paradise Cove because it has something special," the bride said. "You can feel the history, the heart." I gave them the key to Suite 15 and watched them head upstairs, hand in hand. Through the lobby windows, I could see both our vintage neon sign and Horizon's elegant modern logo glowing against the twilight sky. Different styles, Different approaches, but finally in balance. Dad would have loved that. Later, standing on the beach where my grandparents first dreamed of building something lasting, I thought about legacy. Not just the physical property, but the principles it represented. Integrity, perseverance, the courage to stand up for what's right. The waves still whisper against the shore, telling stories of past and future. Paradise Cove Inn still welcomes travelers looking for more than just a place to sleep. And I still believe, like my family before me, that true hospitality comes from the heart. Some things, after all, really are worthless to those who only see dollar signs. But to those who understand value beyond a balance sheet, they're absolutely priceless.